Hi everyone, it's Tracy here from Art Fiber Stitch. Someone gave me this beautiful material. It's a sheer fabric and it has a print on it. And I thought I'd really like to colour it. So I've got the Inktense sticks out and I'm just putting a little smear of colour on. I've started with a dark blue, I'm going into a brighter blue. Might put some a different blue again down the bottom, and then I might finish with a little bit of a jade kind of color. Now it doesn't look like much yet, but these Inktense are really good, really intense. So what happens is you put your color on. You don't have to worry too much about it being, you're not coloring in, you're just shading sort of thing. And then you get water and a paintbrush, and you just use your brush to wash over what we've already done. And wow, it's like magic. Look at that beautiful color coming out. So what it's doing is the pigment has been put down on the fabric, and with the water we're smoothing it and maybe turning it into like a watercolor almost. But what happens is with the Inktense, that's it then, that will set, because just wetting it and then letting it dry, that's enough to set it. But what I wanted to show you is, look at this. This is, like I said, a printed fabric. They have this printed design on, and when we color like we are, those printed bits act like a resist. They resist the color and you get this lovely pattern show up. So that's really nice. And you could do the same thing with creating your own resist on fabric. You might want to stamp, or you might want to I know at one stage I used to use just good old flour and water, or wax like a batik. All of these things are things that stop the dye being able to travel through. But look at these Inktense colors, aren't they lovely? So now that that material is wet, I can just add straight on with the crayon, and that's fine. There's loads of ways you can use this actually. You could wet the fabric first and just use your color sticks on it. You can use your paintbrush and water and just apply it to the stick to pick the color up off it and then paint with it. Loads of things. But right now I'm looking at brightening it up with a little bit of yellow. Can you see I'm just doing little dots? Some little dots and some larger dots, the smaller ones up the top. I just thought maybe they would look like, it does look like a flowery garden, doesn't it? A bit of a wild garden. So I just thought a little bit of yellow in there would make me happy. And I'll go over again and just make sure that there aren't any lumpy bits in that pigment that I put down by just using the corner of my brush and just making sure that everything is nicely wet, and it will dry. It'll dry set. So isn't this lovely? I mean, you don't need to have anything too complicated, any dyes or anything. You can color whatever you like with just these. I think they're great. Right, well, one more thing I want to show you here before we finish with this bit is that you can, like I said, you could grab a color and you could dip your paintbrush in water and just rub it along the stick. You can see here I'm wanting to add some darker colors. I'm just picking some different areas there just to make those stalks stand out a bit more. Darker down the bottom. It really is looking very interesting, this background. I hope we keep a lot of the color by the time it's dry. So here I am with the stick, and I'm just wet brush, and now I can use that. I've put that dye on my paintbrush and I can paint with it. So plenty of ways to play with this, and it's a really handy thing to have. Now I make it a habit of whenever I've got colour like this that's on the plastic that's underneath, I use something, either a piece of fabric or in this case a bit of rice paper, and I pick up any extra colour rather than waste it, and then I've got a piece already dyed for some other project. So that's a handy tip right there. Right, so it's on a plastic sheet so I can pick it up, and I can show you a little closer here what it looks like, and there's some lovely colours in there. And the next stage is to take it outside and to dry it. So it's dry, and I've been looking at it, and I've been looking at those yellow blobs that we put on, and I've decided I'm going to stiffen some nice yellow fabrics. And I'm going to use just PVA glue and water, about half and half, paintbrush here, and I've got some little samples of different fabrics here. I've got a cotton, I've got a linen, I've got a silk, that's the silk there, and I've got an organza. I just have, that one's a, what's that? Oh, I don't know, satin of some description. So I'm just trying all different shades of yellowish or goldish and seeing what happens. So I like doing this because what it does is it stops you having frayed edges. If you want to cut shapes out, complicated shapes, it's much easier to stiffen it first, and then we pop it outside to dry and have a look when it comes back. And when it is dry, you can peel it off the plastic and it's ready to use. But let's have a look at this fabric, the yellow blobs. I'm cutting out little yellow circles from my various different stiffened fabrics, and I'm thinking we'll try and add this in. It'll look good, I think. So all different kinds of fabrics, and they're not, you know, like really stiff like metal, but they certainly are stiffer, and you know, they take intricate cuts very well. I use this quite a lot, this technique. Here's a little piece of organza that's all different colors. I thought that would be useful, so I'm just going to cut out circles. I'll make sure I have some smaller and some larger. I'm not going to try very hard to make them perfectly circular. Some will be more like ovals, doesn't matter. But using all of these different kinds of yellows and fabrics here, that will give us that variety that we need to make realistic kind of flowers, I think. I've been wondering what to do with this fabric, and really it's so pretty as it is. It wouldn't need much. Maybe just these spots would be enough. I don't know. But I will experiment and try other things. You know, whilst I was doing this and I was sort of envisaging, you know, what it looks like, I'm thinking, you know, what we could do is a white surround and a white stripe down the middle, and up from top to bottom and left to right, and it would look like a 4-pane window looking out on a nice garden view. But I don't think I'll do that this time. You can, and I think it would look very effective. But yeah, well, this silk in particular does cut very interesting. So I'm also cutting out a few sort of furnish kind of shapes that I might pop in there as well. Now, because this is a sheer fabric, I'm just laying it on some calico, some creamy unbleached cotton. But you know, you could use a different color, a more vibrant color, and it would show through somewhat and affect the overall picture. So there is that. But I'll just try it with the calico just to give it some body whilst I'm stitching. And what I'm going to do now, after I've finished playing around and thinking, oh, what kind of arrangement do I like, I'm going to grab my needle and thread it with a couple of strands of some stranded cotton, put a knot in the end and come up from underneath and just do a little stitch just in that circle, just to hold it. I might do more later, I really don't know, but at the moment I'm thinking that's a good way to just hold that down. And I'll travel underneath up to somewhere else, and I again go up through and back down through that circle, and I'm creating a little stitch that's going to hold it there. So that's the point. And I'll travel through now, just getting one stitch in each of those circles, and maybe a few stitches in those fern kind of shapes I cut out, just to hold that down. And then we'll rethink what we might want to do. One thing we could try is couching, and I've grabbed some interesting yarns out that are a possibility. I just cut lengths of that and drape it up, and they would look like greenery. This one here is two different yarns, and they're twisted together. See, that one's got the little pom-poms on a string, and the other is a grassy like one. So they could be useful. And I really don't know. I'm just trying to see what would that look like. Is it too much? I don't know. And I will play with this again next time, and I'll see how I go. But I'm losing some of that lovely background that I loved so much. I'm thinking maybe it's getting too busy. Anyway, it remains to be seen. But I just wanted to show you how simple it could be to do a coloured background and stiffen some of these all different fabrics. It works just fine, and just stitching it down, and it's very, very simple but effective. I like where this is going. I maybe not so much of the couched yarns, but we'll come back to this next time. We'll do a part 2 on this and see where we go with it, because I'm just not sure yet. But those two things that I have shown you, the stiffening and the colouring with Inktense, very, very handy, and you can make something quite pretty quite easily. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and you'll join me next time. We're having a close-up look now, and yeah, I think I've covered up too much of that background. I liked it. Okay, well, we'll see. I'll see you next time, and we'll see what we end up with. If you've liked this video, don't forget to press like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon, and we'll see what we end up with this interesting little project. Thanks again.